Welcome to Pages to Dialogues, your premier destination for insightful discussions on Christian books. Join me as we delve into the pages of thought-provoking Christian literature and explore the timeless truths and principles that can transform our lives. From classic devotionals to contemporary bestsellers, we'll engage in meaningful dialogues that will inspire, encourage, and challenge you to grow deeper in your faith. So, subscribe to Pages to Dialogues now and join the conversation. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can stay updated on new episodes and exclusive content. Let's turn pages into conversations that matter.
Hey there, listeners. Are you ready to explore a topic that just might change how you see love and relationships?
I am.
We are going to take a deep dive into Gary Chapman's The 5 Love Languages Singles Edition, looking for those golden nuggets of wisdom.
Awesome.
But this isn't your typical lovey-dovey stuff, no way. We're going for actionable insights that you, our amazing listeners, can use right now.
I like it. Actionable.
Whether you're out there searching for love or wanting to better connect with the special people already in your life, this deep dive is for you.
You know, what I find really cool is that Chapman doesn't just lump all single folks together.
Right.
He gets it.
Yeah.
He recognizes the different paths people have been on.
Yeah.
Like whether they've never been married or divorced, widowed, separated, or even if they're navigating the world of single parenthood.
It's like he's saying, hey, no matter what your background is, you're welcome here. This is for you.
Exactly.
But, okay, let's be real for a sec. When most of us think about love, we think about romance.
Yeah, that's true.
So what does Chapman have to say about that?
Well, he has this interesting way of breaking down romantic love into 2 stages.
Okay.
Obsessive and covenant.
Interesting.
The obsessive stage, that's the initial rush, the infatuation, the butterflies, the can't eat, can't sleep kind of love.
Oh, I know that feeling.
It's intense, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. He says it usually lasts about 2 years.
Oh, just 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think of it like love on autopilot, you know?
Okay.
Fueled by hormones and that brand new feeling.
So 2 years. That's something to think about. But what happens after that?
Right.
What happens when those sparks start to fade? Does that mean lasting love is just a myth?
Not at all. That's where the covenant love comes in.
Okay.
It's a different kind of love, more mature, more intentional.
Okay.
It's about making a choice to love someone, flaws and all, even when the excitement dies down.
So it's like a deeper kind of love.
Yes, exactly. It's
Right.
about commitment, respect, truly understanding each other.
So how do we make that shift? You know?
Yeah. From the fireworks of obsessive love to that steady, warm glow of covenant love.
Right.
Is there like a secret formula?
Well, Chapman's secret sauce, so to speak, is understanding the 5 love languages.
The love languages.
His big idea is that each of us has a primary love language.
Like a way we best receive love.
Exactly. It's like our love language dialect.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they feel most loved when they hear those affirming words.
Right.
While others, they just light up when you spend quality time with them.
That makes sense. I think a quick refresher on those 5 languages would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Just to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Let's do it. The first one is words of affirmation.
Okay.
Think verbal compliments, encouragement, anything that makes someone feel valued through spoken or written word, like a verbal hug.
I love that. A verbal hug. Okay, what's next?
Next up, we have quality time.
All right.
This one is all about giving someone your undivided attention, no phones, no distractions, just pure connection.
That's so important these days.
It is. It's like saying, hey, being with you right now is the most important thing to me.
I love that.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got words of affirmation, quality time, what else?
Let's see, there's acts of service.
Oh, that's a big one for some people.
Sure.
Like doing those things to make someone's life easier.
Exactly, like helping with chores, running errands, taking something off their plate.
It's like saying, I love you enough to lighten your load.
Exactly.
And of course, we can't forget about gifts.
Of course not.
It's not about how much money you spend, but the thought behind it.
Exactly. It's like saying, I was thinking of you, and this made me think of you.
Oh, that's sweet.
Right.
Okay, so what's the last one?
Last but definitely not least, we have physical touch.
Yes.
And this isn't just about intimacy, but expressing affection through appropriate physical contact.
Okay.
Like hugs, holding hands, a reassuring pat on the back. It's all about conveying warmth and closeness.
So the big aha moment here is that we all have our own special way of receiving love. And knowing our own love language helps us understand what truly makes us feel loved and appreciated.
Absolutely.
But wait, there's more to it, right?
There is. It's not enough to just know our own language. We need to become fluent in the languages of the people we care about.
So it's a two-way street.
Exactly. It's about
Yeah.
learning to express love in a way that truly resonates with the people in our lives.
I get it, but how does all this play out in real life?
Right.
Does Chapman give us any examples?
He does. And his stories, they really bring these ideas to life.
Okay, I'm all ears.
For example, he talks about this guy named Rob who was recovering from a hiking accident.
Oh, wow.
And a friend just went above and beyond, helping him out with everyday stuff, like cooking meals, driving him to appointments.
That's so kind.
And Ra realized that these acts of service, that was his friend's way of expressing deep care and support, even more than words ever could.
That's a great example of how someone's actions can be way more powerful than words, especially when they're tailored to that person's love language.
Yeah.
But what about those times when people just totally miss the mark with their love languages? Are there any stories about that?
Oh, definitely. He talks about Brian, a guy who just kept striking out in dating.
Really?
And he finally realized that he wasn't speaking the love language of words of affirmation to the women he was seeing.
Even though he liked them.
Yeah, even though he genuinely liked them, it just wasn't coming across.
So was it his upbringing? Was he just not used to giving compliments?
That played a big role. He grew up in an environment where criticism was more common than praise.
Oh, I see.
So expressing those positive affirmations, it just didn't come naturally to him.
So he had to unlearn some old habits and learn a new way of communicating.
Exactly.
That's a powerful example of how our past experiences can really shape our love language vocabulary, right? Like why it's so important to become aware of those patterns. But what happened to Brian?
Well, Chapman helped him come up with strategies to become more comfortable with expressing verbal appreciation. He even encouraged Brian to create like a cheat sheet of affirming statements he could use.
A cheat sheet. That's a great idea.
Right. Like for different situations. I really admire your, for a coworker, or you look fantastic today for a potential date.
So it's like having those phrases ready to go can make it easier to sprinkle them into conversations naturally. I bet that made a huge difference for Brian.
It did. And speaking of relationships, Chapman is big on the fact that these love languages aren't just for romantic partners.
Right.
They're important for all kinds of relationships, including family dynamics.
So like with our parents, siblings, even those quirky aunts and uncles we only see at the holidays.
Absolutely. He shares the story about a woman who was always getting frustrated with her dad.
Oh, I can relate to that.
He was always asking her for help around the house. She saw it as him being controlling, but then
Why?
she realized that his primary love language was acts of service.
Oh, wow. That changes everything.
It wasn't about him bossing her around. Those requests, that was his way of feeling loved and connected.
That's amazing how understanding his love language completely shifted her perspective.
Right. It's like those requests weren't about control. They were about connection.
It's amazing how a simple shift in perspective can completely change the dynamic of a relationship.
It really is. And that's just one example. He has a whole bunch of stories about siblings learning to appreciate each other's differences and building stronger bonds by speaking each other's love languages.
Okay, spill the tea. I got to hear a good sibling story.
Okay. There's one about this young woman named Brianna. Her brother, he had this annoying habit of calling her Freckles.
Oh, sibling.
It drove her nuts. But instead of getting mad, she remembered what she'd learned about love languages.
Okay.
And she realized that his primary love language was quality time.
Interesting. So she decided to speak his language.
Exactly. She started spending one-on-one time with him, doing things he enjoyed, really listening to him.
Wow, that's so thoughtful. But did it actually stop the Freckles nickname?
It did. And the crazy thing is, she never even had to ask him to stop. Just by filling his love tank with quality time, their whole relationship shifted, and the nickname just faded away.
Wow, that's incredible. It shows that sometimes the most effective way to deal with an issue isn't to confront it head on, but to focus on strengthening the overall connection through the other person's love language.
Exactly.
So we've talked about romantic love, family relationships, but where else do these love languages come into play?
Chapman's point is that they're relevant for any relationship, friendships, roommates, even in the workplace.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He tells this story about Kathy, who made a gift basket for her friend who was going through a really tough breakup.
Oh, that's sweet.
She knew her friend's love language was gifts, so she created this tangible expression of love and support.
That's so thoughtful. It's like saying, I see you, I care about you, and I want you to feel loved even when things are rough.
Exactly. Simple but powerful.
What about roommates? I can only imagine how tense things can get when those living styles clash.
Right. Well, he tells a great story about this guy named Reed who was having serious issues with his messy roommate.
Oh no, I've been there.
Instead of nagging or leaving those passive-aggressive notes, you know what he did.
What did he do?
He started speaking his roommate's love language.
So what was it?
Words of affirmation.
So he was complimenting his messy roommate. That seems counterintuitive.
It might sound strange, but it worked. By focusing on his roommate's strengths and expressing appreciation for the things he did well, Reed totally shifted their relationship dynamic.
Okay, now I have to know. Did the compliments magically transform the messy roommate into a neat freak?
Well, maybe not magically, but there's definitely a positive change. The roommate started feeling more appreciated and motivated to contribute to their shared space.
That's great.
And the best part, they went from being frustrated roommates to actual friends.
Wow. The power of a little affirmation. It sounds like understanding these love languages can have a ripple effect. They can improve not only our personal relationships, but, like you said, every aspect of our lives.
Exactly. That's Chapman's point. Love isn't just about romance. It's a vital force in all healthy relationships. It's about being intentional and making the effort to connect with others in ways that are meaningful to them.
That's a really important point. We tend to put so much emphasis on romantic love, but really, love in all its forms is what makes life richer and more fulfilling.
I completely agree.
Speaking of fulfilling, we've only scratched the surface of what Chapman has to offer. There's so much more to unpack.
I know. And we haven't even touched on navigating the complexities of dating and finding a life partner.
That's a great point. Stay tuned for more practical tips and insightful stories in part 2 of our deep dive into the 5 love languages.
I can't wait. Welcome back, listeners. Ready for more on those love languages?
I'm ready. Last time we talked about those aha moments when someone realizes, whoa, I've been speaking the wrong love language this whole time. But how do we get better at actually speaking the right ones? It's like knowing the grammar rules is one thing, but having a real conversation is totally different.
I love that analogy. And Chapman has some really cool tips. Remember Brian, the guy who struggled with words of affirmation? Chapman suggested he make a list of positive phrases, tailored for different people in his life.
Oh yeah, like a cheat sheet for expressing appreciation. So instead of racking his brain every time, he could just glance at his list and say, okay, my coworker loves words of encouragement. What did I jot down here? That's genius. I might need to make one of those for myself. What about the other love languages? Any hacks for those?
Absolutely. For those whose love language is quality time, one of the best things you can do is master what Chapman calls reflective listening.
Oh, I've heard of that. But I always thought it was just about nodding along and repeating what someone said. Is there more to it?
Way more. It's about going deeper, beyond just hearing the words. It's about truly understanding the person's thoughts and feelings, really being present and engaged.
Got it.
Chapman breaks it down into 6 steps. First, listen without interrupting. Second, focus on their feelings, not just the words.
Okay, that makes sense.
Third, pay attention to their body language.
Well, yeah, nonverbal cues are huge.
They are. Fourth, resist the urge to offer unsolicited advice. Fifth, ask clarifying questions to make sure you really understand.
So don't jump in with solutions before fully understanding the situation.
Exactly. And finally, the 6th step is to reflect back what you've heard in your own words.
So it's not about thinking of your response while they're talking, but really absorbing what they're saying and then mirroring it back to ensure you're both on the same page. That's super helpful. It sounds like mastering this reflective listening thing could be life-changing for people who cherish quality time.
It really can. It creates that safe space where someone feels truly heard and understood. Which brings us to gifts. I know so many people, myself included, who get stressed out trying to find the perfect gift. Does Chapman have any wisdom for the gift-giving challenged folks out there?
Oh, please share. I am the queen of last-minute generic gifts. I need all the help I can get.
Well, Chapman's advice is simple. Pay attention. What are people passionate about? What are their hobbies, their needs, their dreams? How have they reacted to gifts in the past?
Okay, so it's like detective work. You got to gather those clues.
Exactly. It's less about the price tag and more about showing that you really get them.
I love that. It takes the pressure off finding something expensive and shifts the focus to thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
But what about those times when the most loving thing you can give is a practical gift? Like not necessarily something that's fun or exciting, but something that truly helps.
You're so right. Sometimes practical is perfect. Remember that story about Matt and Anna? They were having a tough time financially. Matt wanted to do something special for Anna's birthday, but money was tight.
Yeah, I remember that one. He was stressing about finding a romantic gift that wouldn't break the bank.
Right. And Chapman suggested that sometimes the best gifts are the ones that meet a real practical need.
Okay.
In their case, it was a prepaid gas card. Not super romantic in the traditional sense, but...
But it was exactly what she needed.
Exactly. It showed that Matt understood her situation and wanted to help.
It's like he was saying, I see you, I see your struggles, and I want to ease the burden. Sometimes that kind of practical support can be the most romantic gesture of all. Okay, so we've covered words of affirmation, quality time, gifts. How about acts of service? How can we show love through those everyday actions?
Acts of service, it's all about making life a little bit easier for someone.
Okay.
It could be as simple as doing the dishes without being asked,
Yeah.
helping a friend move, offering to babysit for a single parent who desperately needs a break.
It's all about those small acts of kindness that say, I'm here for you, I'm happy to help. But can those small things really make a big difference?
They can. Sometimes actions speak louder than words. Think about it. If someone's love language is acts of service, and you consistently go out of your way to make their life a little easier,
Right.
it's a constant reminder that you love and care about them. It builds trust and deepens the connection in a way that words alone might not.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done a whirlwind tour of the 5 love languages and how we can speak them better. Any big takeaways that stand out to you so far?
What really resonates with me is that love isn't just about romantic relationships.
Right.
It's this incredible force that can affect every part of our lives,
It really can.
from family to friends to even our work life. It's about realizing we all need connection and figuring out the best ways to make those connections with the people around us.
That's so important.
And
We get so caught up in finding the one that we forget about all the other loving relationships that enrich our lives.
I agree.
Like, we need to expand our definition of love beyond just romance.
Yes.
But speaking of romance, how do these love languages come into play when it comes to dating and finding a life partner?
That's where things get really interesting. Chapman actually has a lot to say about that, and it might surprise some people. He's pretty cautious about the whole falling in love thing.
Really?
He says it's an amazing experience, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not a guarantee of a successful, long-term relationship.
So those initial sparks, the butterflies, they might not be enough.
He's saying those initial feelings of attraction, the infatuation, they're important, but they're not the foundation of a strong relationship.
So it's like the fireworks might get you to the starting line, but you need something more to run the marathon.
Exactly. The real work begins when the honeymoon phase is over,
Right.
and you're left with 2 imperfect people trying to build a life together.
So what's that something more that helps us go the distance?
Chapman believes understanding and speaking each other's love languages is crucial. When you can communicate love in a way your partner understands and appreciates consistently,
Okay.
it creates this feeling of safety, security, deep connection that can help you through anything.
When you feel loved and appreciated, you're more likely to be patient, forgiving, understanding, even when things are tough.
Yeah.
But how do you know if you and your partner are speaking the same love language?
That's a great question. Chapman says to pay attention to how your partner expresses love.
Okay, and also to how they react when you express love to them.
So observe the patterns.
Exactly. Notice those moments when you feel truly connected, when your partner's eyes light up, when they express genuine appreciation for something you've done. It's all about tuning in to those cues.
So instead of just focusing on shared interests or physical attraction, you need to ask yourself, do I feel loved by this person? And can I effectively show them love in a way they understand?
Absolutely. It's about going beyond the surface and assessing that deeper level of compatibility.
I like that. Deeper level.
He has this story about Lindsay, a young woman dating a guy she found incredibly attractive. But he just wasn't very emotionally expressive.
It sounds like she was caught up in that initial attraction, but wasn't feeling a deeper connection.
That's it. She realized that even though she was excited about the relationship at first, what she really craved was that emotional connection, those words of affirmation. And this guy just wasn't giving her that.
So was she heartbroken? She was, but she knew in her heart that she wouldn't feel truly loved and fulfilled in the long run.
Wow. So she ended it.
She did. It was a tough decision, but she knew it was the right one.
That's a powerful example of how understanding your own love language can help you make those tough choices in dating.
Right.
It's about being honest with yourself about what you need to feel loved and appreciated. and not settling for less.
Exactly. Settling for someone who doesn't speak your love language, no matter how attractive or charming they seem,
It's not going to work.
it can lead to a lot of frustration and resentment down the road.
This is eye-opening. It's making me rethink my whole approach to dating.
Good, that's the point.
But what about family relationships? We touched on those briefly before, but I'm curious to hear more about how understanding those love languages can help us navigate those sometimes complicated family dynamics.
Chapman has some amazing stories about how applying those principles can really change things for the better. He talks about a woman who always felt frustrated with her father's constant requests for help around the house.
She probably felt like he was being demanding or controlling.
Right, exactly. But when she realized that his primary love language was acts of service, it all clicked.
Yeah. It wasn't about him trying to boss her around.
Exactly. Those requests, that was his way of expressing love and feeling connected to her.
That's so powerful. A simple shift in perspective can completely change the whole dynamic of a relationship.
I know, it's amazing. It's not about judging the other person's actions, but trying to understand what's behind them.
Yeah, understanding, not judging. I like that. What about siblings? Got any good sibling stories that illustrate the power of love languages?
There's this heartwarming one about Brianna, who had a brother with this really annoying habit of calling her Freckles. Drove her crazy.
Oh, I can totally relate. Siblings can be so annoying, even when you love them.
Tell me about it. But Brianna, instead of getting mad or trying to fight back, decided to try a different approach.
Okay, I like where this is going. What did she do?
She remembered about love languages, and she realized that her brother's primary love language was quality time.
So she decided to speak his language. I love it. How did she do that?
She made a conscious effort to spend one-on-one time with him, doing activities he enjoyed, and really listening to what he had to say.
That's so thoughtful. Did it work? Did he stop calling her Freckles?
It did. And the crazy thing is, she never even had to ask him to stop. Just by speaking his love language, filling his love tank with quality time, their relationship just shifted and the nickname disappeared.
Wow. Sometimes the best way to deal with an issue isn't to tackle it head on, but to strengthen the overall connection by speaking the other person's love language. So powerful.
It really is. And it shows how important it is to meet people where they are and express love in a way that truly speaks to their heart.
So we've covered romantic relationships, family, friends, even roommates. It seems like these love languages apply to every area of life.
You got it. That's what Chapman keeps saying throughout the book. He believes understanding these love languages can revolutionize not just our personal relationships, but even our professional ones.
Wait, so these principles can actually impact our careers?
Yeah.
That sounds a little too good to be true.
He gives some really cool examples of businesses that have incorporated this stuff and seen great results.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Imagine a workplace where everyone understands each other's love languages. They consciously communicate and support each other in ways that resonate with each person's needs. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That sounds like a dream workplace.
Yeah.
No more passive-aggressive emails or misunderstandings that lead to frustration and resentment. But how would that even work in a real-life setting?
Chapman talks about companies that are using love language assessments as part of their team-building activities.
Interesting.
It helps people figure out how to best support and motivate each other,
Right.
which leads to a more positive and productive work environment.
Yeah.
It's about realizing that everyone has unique strengths and needs,
Makes sense.
and using those differences to build a stronger team.
So instead of seeing those differences as obstacles, you can use them to your advantage.
Exactly. But you're probably wondering if this can really impact the bottom line. Can it actually help a company be more successful?
I am a little skeptical, but I'm open to hearing more.
Chapman believes it can. He tells this great story about a car salesman who realized a lot of his customers really valued quality time.
Okay.
So instead of rushing through the sales pitch, he started really listening to their needs, answering all their questions, and building rapport.
So he focused on building a relationship with each customer instead of just trying to make a sale.
Exactly.
Okay.
He shifted his focus from closing the deal to creating a positive experience.
Did it work? Did he actually sell more cars?
He did. By speaking the love language of quality time, he built trust and connection with his customers, which led to more sales and tons of repeat business.
Wow. So it's a win-win. The customers feel valued and the business thrives. But I feel like there's something deeper here. Is Chapman saying that love should be a part of our professional lives?
He believes that when we approach our work with a spirit of love and service, it not only benefits our colleagues and customers, but it also makes our work more meaningful.
That's a beautiful perspective. It makes you think about work-life balance differently. It's not about separating those two parts of our lives, but finding ways to blend them in a way that feels good.
Exactly. And Chapman says it starts with realizing that love isn't just a passive feeling. It's an active choice we make every day.
So it's not about waiting for love to come to us, but about actively becoming more loving.
You got it. It's about being intentional in all our relationships, both personal and professional, and trying to create a world where love, respect, and understanding are at the center of everything.
That's a powerful message. So we've talked about the 5 love languages and how they apply to different types of relationships, even in the workplace. But I still have one big question. How do we know if someone's truly the right person for us, especially when it comes to marriage? Sparks can fly, but is that really enough to build a life together?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And Chapman has some really helpful advice for how to approach that decision. He emphasizes that marriage is a huge commitment, and it's super important to go into it with both eyes open.
So it's about understanding yourself and your partner on a deep level.
Yeah.
Not just getting swept away by the romance.
Exactly. He wants singles to move beyond the surface level and really assess the foundation of the relationship.
So what should people be looking for, besides the obvious stuff like shared interests and physical attraction?
He talks about shared values and life goals. If you and your partner aren't on the same page about those fundamental things like family, faith, or career aspirations,
Right.
it's going to be really tough to build a fulfilling life together.
That makes total sense. You can be crazy about someone, but if you have completely different visions for the future, you're going to run into problems eventually.
Yeah.
What else is important?
Emotional maturity is another big one. Chapman believes that the ability to handle conflict constructively, to communicate effectively, and to take responsibility for your own actions, those are essential for a healthy and lasting relationship.
Those are definitely must-haves. Without those skills, even the most passionate relationships can fall apart. So where do love languages fit into all of this?
Chapman believes they're essential for determining compatibility. It's not just about knowing your own love language.
Right.
You need to understand your partner's love language and be able to speak it effectively. It's about stepping outside your comfort zone and learning new ways to express love and appreciation that resonate with your partner.
So even if you have different primary love languages, you can still have a great relationship if you're both willing to put in the effort.
Absolutely. It's about realizing that love isn't one size fits all. It's about finding ways to meet each other's unique needs and create a dynamic where you both feel loved and supported.
I love that. It takes the pressure off finding someone who's exactly like you. It opens up the possibility of finding love with someone who complements and challenges you in new ways.
Exactly. But you might be wondering how you know if you're speaking the right love language for your partner. Like, is there a way to test it out?
I was just thinking that. How can you tell if your efforts are really hitting the mark?
Chapman says to pay attention to your partner's reactions. Notice when their eyes light up, when they seem genuinely touched by your gestures, or when they express heartfelt appreciation for your efforts.
So it's about being attuned to their responses, learning what makes them feel truly loved.
Exactly. It's a process of trial and error, experimenting with different expressions of love and seeing what resonates most deeply with your partner. It's like becoming a student of love.
I love that. A student of love. Always learning, always growing in your ability to connect with the people you care about.
That's it. It's all about embracing the journey of learning and growing together as individuals and as a couple. And that journey, as Chapman points out, often involves facing our own weaknesses and insecurities.
So are you saying that relationships can actually help us grow as people?
He believes that when we're in a loving, supportive relationship, we feel safe enough to explore those parts of ourselves that we might be hiding.
It's like we can finally be our true selves, even the messy parts.
Exactly. And Chapman actually encourages singles to view dating as an opportunity for personal growth.
Really?
He says it's not just about finding the one, it's a chance to learn about yourself, to develop your capacity for love and empathy.
So instead of obsessing over finding the perfect partner, we should focus on becoming the best versions of ourselves.
That's the idea. The more self-aware and emotionally mature you become, the more likely you are to attract a partner who's on the same wavelength.
That's empowering. So it's not just about checking off a list of qualities in a partner, but about using dating as a way to learn and grow.
Exactly. And he argues that by learning to speak different love languages, we become more empathetic and compassionate people overall.
I love that. The more we learn about love, the more loving we become. But does he offer any practical advice for navigating the ups and downs of dating? Because it's not always easy.
Oh, absolutely. He encourages singles to be really discerning about who they choose to date,
Okay.
especially when they're considering long-term commitment.
So don't just jump into a relationship because you're head over heels in love.
Take a step back. Really think about whether the person is truly a good fit for you.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about making a wise choice, not just an emotional one.
Right. He tells this story about a young woman who was dating a guy she was super attracted to, but he just wasn't very emotionally expressive.
Sounds like a classic case of head over heels, but not connecting on a deeper level.
Exactly. And even though she was smitten at first, she realized that she needed more.
More than just the butterflies.
She craved emotional connection, affirmation, and he just wasn't giving her that.
So what did she do? Did she try to change him?
She realized that her long-term happiness depended on being with someone who could speak her love language and meet her emotional needs.
Wow.
So she made the difficult but ultimately wise decision to end the relationship and keep looking for someone who was a better fit.
That's a powerful reminder that sometimes walking away from a relationship, even if it's hard, is the best thing we can do for ourselves.
It is. And Chapman stresses that knowing your own love language and being honest about your needs is essential.
Yes.
It's about honoring yourself and choosing partners who can really see you, understand you, and love you in a way that makes you feel whole.
This is so insightful. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of love and relationships now. But I know we're only halfway through our deep dive. What other gems can we expect in the next part of our conversation?
We're going to go even deeper into the transformative power of love languages.
Oh, I can't wait.
We'll talk about how they can help us heal old wounds, strengthen our family bonds, and even contribute to a more loving and compassionate world. Stay tuned for more insights and practical tips in part 3 of our depth dive into the 5 love languages.
Welcome back to our love language adventure. We've explored so much already, from understanding our own love languages to navigating the ups and downs of dating and marriage. But there's still more to discover, right?
Definitely. Last time we were talking about how important it is to choose a life partner wisely and how knowing those love languages can help us make smarter choices. But Chapman doesn't stop there. He reminds us that these ideas apply to all kinds of relationships, not just the romantic ones.
I think that's what's so cool about this whole concept. It's like a universal love language. It can make every relationship in our lives even better. We've touched on family relationships and workplace dynamics, but I'd love to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start with friendships. How can understanding love languages make our friendships even stronger?
Well, think back to Kathy's story, the one where she put together that really thoughtful gift basket for her friend who was going through a breakup. She knew intuitively that her friend's love language was gifts.
Right.
And she nailed it. She offered comfort and support in a way that her friend really understood.
It's a beautiful example of how even small things can have a big impact when they're done in the right love language. It doesn't always have to be a grand gesture, though, does it? Sometimes it's those little everyday acts of kindness that really make a difference.
Absolutely. It could be as simple as bringing your friend their favorite coffee when they're having a bad day, or offering to watch their kids so they can have some time to themselves, or just being there to listen when they need to vent.
It's all about being present and really paying attention to what your friends need, and then finding ways to show you care in a language they understand. What about those trickier relationships, like roommates? We all know things can get tense when people have different living styles.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Remember Reed, the guy with the messy roommate?
Yeah, what was his love language again?
Words of affirmation.
Right. And instead of getting mad or leaving passive-aggressive notes, he decided to try something different.
He decided to speak his roommate's language, and it totally changed their dynamic.
It's incredible how they went from all that tension to a real friendship. By speaking the language of affirmation, he was able to bridge that gap and build a more positive connection. Okay, now I want to talk about the workplace. Chapman believes that these love language principles can actually lead to better teamwork, communication, and job satisfaction. It sounds a bit idealistic, but I'm willing to be convinced. What do you think?
He gives some really interesting examples of companies that have incorporated these principles and seen real improvement.
Like what kind of improvements?
Imagine a work environment where everyone understands each other's love languages.
Okay.
They make a conscious effort to communicate and support each other in ways that are meaningful to each individual.
That sounds amazing. No more misunderstandings or passive-aggressive emails flying back and forth.
Right. Less drama, more productivity. But I know what you're thinking. How would that even work in the real world?
I am a little skeptical, to be honest.
Chapman talks about companies that have started using love language assessments as part of their team building exercises.
Oh, that's interesting.
It helps people learn about their colleagues' preferred ways of receiving appreciation and support.
I can see how that would be helpful.
And it can create a more collaborative and positive atmosphere.
It's about understanding that everyone brings something unique to the table.
Exactly. And using those differences to build a stronger, more effective team. But I know you're probably wondering if this whole love language thing can really affect a company's success.
I am a bit curious about that. It sounds a little too good to be true.
Well, Chapman tells a story about a car salesman who discovered that a lot of his customers really valued quality time.
So instead of doing the typical hard sell, he took a different approach.
Exactly. Instead of rushing through the sales pitch, he actually took the time to listen to his customers, answer their questions, and just build a rapport.
So he shifted his focus from closing the deal to actually building a relationship.
Exactly. He wanted to create a positive experience, and it paid off big time.
Really?
His sales went up.
Wow.
And he got tons of repeat business.
It's amazing how such a simple change in approach can have such a huge impact.
It is. And I think it highlights a key point that Chapman makes. Love isn't just something that happens to us. It's a choice we make. It's a decision to show up for the people in our lives, both personally and professionally.
It's about becoming more loving, not just waiting for love to find us.
Exactly. It's about being more mindful in our relationships, both personal and professional. It's about creating a world where love, respect, and understanding are the foundation of everything we do.
That is beautiful. This whole conversation has been so eye-opening. I feel like I'm seeing the world through a new lens, a lens of love and understanding. And I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to do the same, to take what they've learned about the 5 love languages and start using them in their own lives. Become more fluent in the love languages of the people you care about. And in doing so, create deeper, more meaningful connections in every aspect of your life. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question that Chapman poses. What's one relationship you can improve today by consciously speaking the other person's love language? It could be your partner, a family member, a friend, a colleague, even a stranger. It's a simple question, but it has the power to transform your relationships and, ultimately, your life. Until next time, keep speaking the language of love.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Pages to Dialogues. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and found valuable insights to apply to your life. If you did, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Pages to Dialogues, for more thought-provoking dialogues on Christian books.